Imagine pooping on the ground, calling it your bed, and then raising a family on it. You would think one of the only benefits to this lifestyle would be the seclusion and privacy, but it turns out you have thousands of noisy neighbors, and one weekend, some guys come around and steal your crap. This is the reality of guano, the forbidden toaster strudel frosting of seabird poo. Created by generations of birds pooping in the same spot, its nutrient-dense properties make it a valuable fertilizer for farming and would lead to a country-saving economic boom, Supreme Court legal battles, wars, murder, and possibly a new personal hobby of mine. For thousands of years, indigenous people in the Andes Mountains began collecting these pucks of poo and spreading them over their crops to revitalize the soil. No, Randy, not like that. These arid islands and coastal areas with a high population of seabirds was the premier place for storing hardened bird poo, although you would never hear about that in the timeshare brochure. Every society has those chaotic types that push the limits of nature, like past horse tamers and present-day gladiators. But I'm guessing this was just a case of someone trying to pull a prank. The old bird poop on your cornfield, not to be confused with the sexual innuendo of the same name. But eventually, some old-world Chads invited themselves over to the South American party. After raiding the snack table and taking some precious metals, on their way out, they were like, yeah, dudes, do you guys want some guns and loans? Okay, alright. Peru was one of these places, in debt, still fighting wars, and in the process of overthrowing their government. And this new government, like a bully whose life at home is hard, did the equivalent of stealing my Uncrustables and began seizing all of the privately owned poop land. The total Chads of the world were back at their homes, looking down at their weak soil. They read in a magazine article about the magic of guano, and by golly, it worked. The Guano Party was officially on, and it was perfect timing for the new Peruvian government to start charging people at the door. This became known as the Guano Era. Peru became the largest exporter, and internationally, businesses began following constipated seagulls, hoping they would be led to a new poop-covered island. Now that Peru's bird poop collection was all of a sudden cool, the popular kids were being nice to them and began buying tons of bird poop each year. They used their new wealth to end some of the bad stuff like indigenous taxes and slavery. But wait, one guy said, if we can't force people to collect bird poo, who's going to collect it? Indentured servitude, the same profitable practices of slavery, but healthier on your conscience. Like Cheerios. Oh, you know what? They probably don't want their slogan associated with it. You see, eventually the workers could pay off their debt, but before then, you'd be stuck on a barren island controlled by your boss. People all around the world were getting scammed. The same genetic pool that created today's used car salesman went off to China, where citizens were kidnapped or promised jobs in California's gold rush mines. In the US, laborers were told they'd be working on a paradise island with sexy women, fruit trees galore, and boobies. Now imagine being promised any of these things, and then getting off the boat and stepping out onto an island covered in bird shit. Honey, it's time for summer camp. Mom, this isn't just another excuse to get some time to yourself, right? Mom? Again? No beaded friendship bracelets would be made, and this was by no means a paradise. The women and fruit were lies. Labor was difficult and dangerous. The leaders often used cruel forms of punishment, and the boobies... Oh, I see what you did there, like the bird. Okay, you got me with that one. Conditions were so bad that some died of exhaustion, others committed suicide, others realized, oh, you know what, there's like 100 of us, and only 5 boss dudes, and we're on an island in the middle of the ocean. Let's just throw rocks at them. A group of predominantly black US workers killed a handful of their bosses, and the US people didn't like murder. The guys were put on trial in the US, and their attorney presented the old offshore gambling boat defense, arguing they couldn't be tried because the island wasn't in the US, because, it was an island in the middle of the Caribbean. To which the Supreme Court replied, nah, actually, you know what, that's part of the US now. You see, a few years ago, the US government was in a guano frenzy, so they made it legal for businesses to go around looking for uninhabited islands covered in guano. They could claim the land and set up shop, just like my cat does on my face every morning. The workers were sentenced to death, but President Benjamin Harris stepped in and said, this is not justice. These people were mistreated on what I guess is now US soil. We live in a land of freedom and democracy, so I'm going to use my executive power to free these men from the clutches of death, and instead sentence them to a life of hard labor. This case was when the US gave themselves legal precedence to claim and then govern any land that it could do more push-ups than. By this time, all the bad drunks had ruined the guano party. Better agricultural practices and alternative fertilizers were just down the block, and all the people with poop fetishes decided they'd just go and get bat guano from caves. There was another South American war. This time, Chile played gotcha coast with Bolivia, and by the end of the 19th century, who was left to clean up after the party? Well, the Peruvian government has tried some protective measures, and other guano islands have had mixed results, but bird populations and habitats have continued to decline. If these creatures weren't cursed enough by God to sit on their own mayo soft serve, now they have organic farmers of all people seeking their turd perches to appease a current fad. Personally, I think it's time we give the birds this one. The least we could do is give them our feces in exchange for theirs. I guess it is a good thing I'm not in charge. But I am in charge of your attention right now. Did you know that 90% of the people who watch my videos do not know I'm actually a mountain-dwelling goat man? Like, subscribe, and acknowledge my bestial form in the comments down below. By the way, you smell good today. Goodbye.